With me, Rob Double. It is Wednesday, the 23rd of May 2018. Let's have a look at what's making the political news today. And to start off with, a message from Mark Carney, the Governor of the Bank of England, making quite a lot of the headlines today in the papers. Brexit costing homes £900 a year. Now, that was a line he gave yesterday, giving evidence to the Treasury Committee, saying the British economy is as much as £40 billion smaller. And the difference, he was referring to here specifically the difference between what was forecast 2 years ago in terms of the size of the economy and growth, which was on the eve of the referendum, of course, and in terms of how much households have lost now. And so it's a direct comparison between 2 years ago and now. So real incomes, he says, are about £900 per household lower than what we forecast in May 2016. Now, in terms of how this is going to play out in politics, you have to remember that Mark Carney has not had a particularly bump-free ride in terms of the Brexit referendum, both during the campaign and indeed in the aftermath. If you remember, Jacob Rees-Mogg, a prominent Conservative backbencher and indeed very prominent member of the Brexit commentary from the backbenches, actually called for Mark Carney to resign as a result of comments he made regarding the impact of Brexit on the economy, or the possible speculative impact of Brexit on the economy. And indeed today you'll see Jacob Rees-Mogg has criticised Mark Carney for his comments, as well as the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, making the point that perhaps Mark Carney should not be saying things like this, or perhaps saying it in such a negative way. In defence of Mark Carney, though, he did go on to say that the UK could enjoy a Brexit bounce, an increase in investment on the British economy after a deal is actually agreed, an agreement is made between the EU and the UK, and there is clarity for businesses regarding what the UK is going to look like post-Brexit. And as well, it is a correct sentiment Mark Carney actually gave. GDP is more than 1% below the May 2016 forecast, or rather what was forecast in May 2016 for now. And so what it was is really a repetition of fact more than anything else. But of course, in terms of the politics and in terms of the context of Mark Carney and the Brexit referendum, it will be something which no doubt you'll hear some lines from, particularly from the Conservative backbenches today. Next up, Sajid Javid, who's of course the new Home Secretary, has his first proper outing today. He's making a speech at what is traditionally quite a tricky speech to make, the Police Federation Conference. Not always the warmest of welcomes for any politician to go to, but none so more than Conservative ministers, particularly in the context of the police budget cuts that have happened over the past few years. He's making his first big speech, and the central theme is going to be around cuts, and in particular it's going to be around police budgets. Now, police cuts were, of course, the central theme of the 2017 general election campaign, particularly in the context of what's been going on in terms of knife crime and violent crime rising in London and indeed across the UK as well. The Sun is reported, however, that Sajid Javid will make a significant movement from previous rhetoric at the Police Federation conference from Conservative Home Secretaries, actually going to be far more conciliatory in what he's going to say, particularly in terms of funding for the police. It talks of promise of a new deal for overstretched police chiefs in a huge break from Theresa May, the now obviously Prime Minister. Promise bobbies the tools, the powers and backup they need. And a quote here which has come through in reports is, "What I will say is that I'm listening and I get it. I get that there's increased demand." Now that's a big contrast, as I said, from Theresa May, the Prime Minister, in 2014, who really was, and the reports covered it as well, was criticised the police and particularly bobbies, the average bobby on the street, for complaining about budget cuts. And this was in the context of the coalition times when cuts were made to the police budget. Just a little trivia about Sajid Javid as well, which is relevant today, is that his brother is actually a high-ranking policeman in the forces itself, so something just to know for those pub quizzes. And finally, last story, Tories to target Brexit Labour seats. Now, the Tories have launched a new campaign website targeting Labour MPs in pro-leave areas where the CCHQ, which is Conservative Campaign Headquarters, claims that those MPs are trying to frustrate Brexit, or at least not giving the kind of indications which is representative of their constituency and how their constituency voted. Now, this is called respecttheresult.co.uk, currently targeting quite a few seats, but amongst them Ashford MP Gloria Di Pietro, Bishop Auckland MP Helen Goodman, and Stockton South MP Paul Williams, who's been on our Meet the MP series, so have a look at him if you want to find out more. But there's many, many more. And this is obviously looking at the Conservative Party, looking to a campaign strategy, perhaps for some kind of election down the road, and perhaps looking to try and take any kind of Brexit voting Labour seats from the Labour Party, who are perhaps unhappy with Jeremy Corbyn and indeed the Labour Party's stance or fuzziness towards the Brexit position that they want to take. That's pretty much it for today, your update. Don't forget you can find all the latest on what we're doing here on Core Politics on our Facebook page and Twitter right here. But from me and all the team here at Core London, have a fantastic start to your Wednesday.